Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And we've just come back from seeing Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yes.
Which is one of these standalone Star Wars ones that they're doing now. The first one was Rogue One a couple of years ago. I'm just feeling a sense of Star Wars saturation, to be honest. At the start of the film, so these spin-offs, they don't have the Star Wars fanfare music, which is still reserved just for the main Star Wars films. But they do have the A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, and even that, should feel exciting. But now there's one a year; it doesn't anymore.
Well, I've never been excited by them, but this is the one I've liked most since the second one.
Since, as in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, The Empire Strikes Back. This is my favorite of the films since The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow. No. Not I found it unbelievably boring, not funny enough. Pretty uninspiring to look at. Pretty badly paced. Not really much of a control of tone. Not enough personality. I had a pretty bad time.
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the most textured films. It had, the most attractive cast since the original. I mean, obviously you can't replace Harrison Ford, but actually you can replace everybody else pretty much, and I think this one does a really good job of it. I thought Emilia Clarke was wonderful. I thought Aaron Eckhart, he's not...
Aaron Eckhart?
What's his name?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Okay, oh God, no wonder. Alden Ehrenreich. Was really good, actually. You can't kind of measure him in relation to Harrison Ford. But on his own, I thought he was very good. It was wonderful to see Woody Harrelson, Danny Glover, Thandie Newton was wonderful.
Donald Glover
was wonderful. So I thought for me, and what's his name? Paul Bettany. Was wonderful. So it had the best cast. It actually had textured characters. For me, the adventure was exciting. There were moments where I just jumped, really, and kind of, and there were moments that I think kind of will stay with me, really, just, for example, the moment where they're separated at the beginning. I thought that was fantastic.
Well, let's go ahead and just say we're going to get into spoiler territory right away. Like, it's a story of young Han Solo, basically, and how he becomes who he is and picks up all the Chewie and the Millennium Falcon and all that sort of stuff. It's how he becomes Han Solo that you know from the later films. So he's about 23 years old in this, let's say.
Yeah.
Spoilers here on,
Yes.
It's the Solo story. There was an awful lot of fan service, as I guess you might expect. It makes a lot of the thing about the Kessel Run. Like, this was this old joke from the first film. Well, not a joke. In the first film, it was the Millennium Falcon's such a great ship. It made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. And at the time, they didn't really think about the line, and it was assumed that was a measurement of time, as in a parsec. So the lower parsec's faster ship. And then someone went, actually, I do know what a parsec is, and it's a measurement of distance. And so this has kind of been retconned in history as, well, okay, maybe it's that it's really agile and it dodged through a meteor field or something, and that's why it's better than the rest. You can do it in a shorter distance. And then in this film, you actually see the Kessel Run and you see how they take this shortcut through a dangerous sort of place, and it should be quite exciting, and it's an absolute maelstrom of noise and light and colour and shakiness, and I didn't find a single moment of it interesting or exciting, and I really wanted to.
Yes, well, I found it exciting. I mean, I was kind of all G'd up for it, and the suspense of it worked for me. I like the story much better than almost any other, though, I do wish that they'd kind of given us more on it. I think actually a whole episode on them being enslaved in that planet and so on, I would have liked that. So, so this, in a way, to me, moves almost like too quickly, right? So you're introduced to them at the beginning, you're given their story, kind of, their attempt to escape, their separation. All of that is like, moves along at quite a clip, I thought.
There are certainly aspects to the way the world is constructed and depicted that I enjoyed. So, early on, this is rather like actually what you were saying when we saw The Last Jedi, and you were talking about the Benicio del Toro character and how he kind of introduced this aspect to the film where you didn't have to be on the good side or the bad side. You could just be in the middle somewhere, making your money off the war economy and quite immoral, and sort of like not everything in the Star Wars universe has to be about the ongoing war between the good and the bad side. And then I thought, well, actually, no, like Han Solo back in 1977 was introduced as that, really. Yeah. He was a smuggler and a mercenary, and he only did it for the money. And then through that film, he learned the kind of value of teamwork and friendship and blah, blah, blah. Although, to be fair, he was always friends with Chewie. Yeah. But that was like his only, that was like the only time he sort of had time for a bit of mushiness was his friendship with Chewie. In this film, he kind of starts off as that. And then kind of loses it as he becomes a sort of mercenary, and then regains it. But what I did like was that, so he starts off in basically it's like half an orphanage slave place. He's got taskmasters who rule over him, and he's sort of a little bit snarky, and he breaks the rules every now and again because that's what he's like. And then he manages to escape, and then he there's this wonderful little thing where you see an advert for the Empire's army, right? Like you do, like the Royal Navy or whatever. Yeah. It's like become a stormtrooper. We have great career options. You can learn you can learn a skill and valuable sort of And so he's like, right, I'm just going to become a pilot. Join the Empire. I want to become a pilot and join the Empire, and that kind of in a very subtle way sort of said to me like it's that thing that you talked about before of how people at the very kind of bottom of the ladder have absolutely no options except to go into the army because the guy has nothing. He's only got his sort of wits and brawn and whatever and charm to get by, and he's like, I'm just going to escape, go to the army, and then of course the army goes here and the other, and then you get into a lot of stuff that's sort of neither here nor there, where he joins a group of mercenary thief guys, and it just sort of
I liked all of that, and I found the first scene when they attempt to steal that thing with the trains, I found that very exciting and actually kind of very visually interesting, the way that the train unfolded and became two and went on its side. The only beef I have about it is that it has that metallic grey look that actually, I don't know if it's the glasses or whatever, but I just hate that look.
It's a long time before you get any colour in film. It's part of the design of it. Yeah. That kind of gunmetal grey that is just all over the first hour and a half even.
I hate it.
Until you start getting blasters and spaceships.
Actually, you know what I thought?
You don't really get any colour.
I thought that was due to the appearance of Donald Glover. Is it Donald Glover?
Donald Glover, yeah. The guy who plays Lando.
That's right, because, I was very attentive to how he was photographed. And actually, he's photographed beautifully, right? Like, they've paid attention to the way he's photographed. So his skin is really, like, velvety and lovely. In film, which kind of with black people, you've got to pay attention to how they're photographed because it's not the same. So they actually you can see they paid attention.
Yeah.
And I thought that also as soon as he was introduced, there was a shift in the color register, and you got more amber tones and so on.
Yeah, well, in a way, like his character is also about the most colourful. So he runs it. I don't know if he runs it, but he's suddenly sort of king of this gambling den, and he tells stories and he lies back and he smiles and he's got this winning grin and he wears like he's basically James Brown. I think like although he's sort of doing Billy D from the first film, he's basically James Brown. He's got like they may even make a joke about how many capes he's got.
Yes.
But so he captures the room and as you say with his introduction, like everything kind of brightens and lifts up and there is more colour in the room. He's the only one wearing anything that's not kind of brown or grey or whites or black.
Yes.
He's wearing a bit of yellow and some reds and stuff.
Yes.
Bright.
Anyway, I liked him very much, and I also liked Emilia Clarke, who for most of the film I mistook for Claire Foy.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even really recognise her because I don't watch Game of Thrones. I just thought they found the person who looks as close to Felicity Jones from the last film as they could.
Well, that might be it. But no, I thought she was Claire Foy from The Crown. For much of the film, and I thought she was very, very good. I really enjoyed,
She's fine.
and I enjoyed the interplay between
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah, just call him Han Solo.
Yes.
I did say to you before the start of the film, I expressed a slight prejudice that I thought that as good as an actor Alden Ehrenreich is, and he stole every scene he was in Hell Caesar, we loved him in that. I did express a prejudice that I didn't think he'd carry this film, and I think I was right about that.
I think in a way you are, in the sense that he doesn't.
He doesn't capture your attention.
He doesn't strike me as a film star, right? Kind of, and I don't know how to say this but he's not somebody you immediately look at, first of all, and then when he's in with other people, you pay attention to things like, his stature and so on. He doesn't come across as heroic, right? The way that Harrison Ford so effortlessly did, But I think on his own terms, he was very good, and I enjoyed seeing him, and I enjoyed the film very much. Actually, I was thinking about, kind of what's different about the way that it's constructed and so on. And one of the interesting things at the moment in this film is that it doesn't seem to have a center. So the structures of power are like really diffuse. It really kind of feels almost like a state of barbarism. Like. Kind of, how they say that after the Roman Empire, kind of, there was like this the Dark Ages, the state of barbarism, and then kind of like, structures reimpose themselves in new ways, after that scramble that kind of followed the fall of the Roman Empire. I think the film is depicting a world like that, right?
I think it's trying to. Actually, the very opening, after it says a long time ago in a galaxy far away, it has some more text come up, and it says, the galaxy is in a state of chaos of some sort. People basically fight over food and fuel and something, and basically made it sound like Mad Max in space.
A little bit.
Like I wish it would have been more like Mad Max in space. I wish it would have felt more, kind of chaotic and lawless. Actually, it feels like too many rules are sort of followed in a weird way. Like for a film that's supposed to be about a guy who doesn't have a master and deserts the army and breaks out and never follows any rules. It's a film that is so predictable and kind of plodding for me. That's why I thought.
It is predictable to a degree, but I enjoyed that predictability because obviously, kind of, so the film is predicated on showing you things that you already know, right? So how you get the Millennium Falcon, how they met Chewbacca and so on, right? So. He's not going to die. So it's already kind of...
that's not the kind of predictability I mean, though. Like, I mean, obviously that he's going to get his hands on the Falcon in a gambling game. That's like that's what all the story always was. And that he's going to do the Kessel Run. Like, you have the inkling it's going to be shown in this film because what else would they show, really? When else are they going to show it? But the thing of, like, the whole story about getting the fuel and the debt that Woody Harrelson has to pay off and stuff, like all of that's completely invented for this film. And as far as I'm aware, I watch films. So
you Star Wars fans are so.
But I don't watch any of the other shit. I only watch the movies. Like I'm not a mega fan. Like I say, so
but you're a fan though.
I'm a fan, but like Darth Maul shows up in this, and immediately I'm doing the maths in my head, going, "How the hell is Darth Maul in this? He died in Phantom Menace. Like when's this movie set?" And then it's only when I went online and Googled how is Darth Maul in Solo.
You see?
But I had to find out, and then it said like, "Oh, Darth Maul's been in the cartoons for ages." We only watch the cartoons.
Yeah.
But apparently they're like canon or whatever.
Anyway, I'm not a particular fan, and what I find very interesting is how fans can excuse the last 30 years of shit films, and all of a sudden kind of look at this, which I think is the best of the bunch, and kind of begin to pick fault with it because of Han Solo.
Do you really think it's better than The Last Jedi? We had a great time during that.
Yes, I know you did.
We found a lot to discuss.
Yeah, we did, and I liked it. But actually, this is the one that I feel I'd like to see it again. And not that I think it's a great masterpiece or anything, but I think it's a more densely textured film.
Okay.
And I actually think that it's one that people who are not Star Wars fans, but who are fans of action sci-fi would enjoy the most than any of the other ones. I mean,
I'd say that's certainly true because it's more of like an origin or introducing new things type of story. Like, and Rogue One, I think, is the same thing.
Yes.
With brand new characters that you haven't seen before.
Yes. And I think this is a film that has a lot going for it, really. So without wanting to make claims that it's like a great movie. I love the action, I love the setup, I love the characterization more than in any other Star Wars film, really. So it's true that some of the throwaway lines that you had between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford in the originals, they're not, you don't get that type of ease with the throwaway humor, that you did in those early films. But I found the romance between Han Solo and I forget what her name is.
Kira, I think.
Kira, yeah. I found it compelling. I found it interesting. I found it noirish, really. Yeah, like kind of it is touching on that kind of aesthetic for a while, and so I found it compelling. It drew me in. It is true also that there are times where in the film that my mind wandered.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of...
It's over 2 hours long, and it's just not necessary.
Yeah. So, but
I didn't feel a single bit of chemistry between any of the characters, I've got to say. Even Donald Glover, and he's doing all the work.
Oh,
I didn't feel any chemistry.
I love Woody Harrelson in this. I think he's wonderful.
I mean, I love Paul Bettany, but, even he shows up and can't save it.
But he's very good.
He is very good, but again, I'm talking about chemistry, like relationships between characters. You're talking about the romance between the guy and the girl. Didn't feel a single second of it. I'm watching the whole opening of the film and this great escape and how they're going to go off together, and then they get separated, and it's this great moment, and I'm going, why don't I feel anything?
I don't know, because I jumped out of my seat, as you saw.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So, why don't you feel anything?
The point is, I don't think it's my fault.
Uh-huh.
I think it feels kind of lazy. Like, even though it's clearly not lazy, like the amount, it's sort of the production values are extraordinary, and it looks amazing, and the design of everything is really, really good. You get like that kind of well, it's Star Wars, but it's also that kind of alien sort of brushed steel aesthetic where it's like in space, everything is still just as shit as it is now, but it's in space. Which kind of looks interesting. Peeling paints and things like that.
I feel that visually, I'm at pains to talk about films that I see in 3D because, I always think that the 3D, I hate seeing things in 3D actually, and I don't think the 3D brought anything to this movie, except the loss of color, and kind of the occasional kind of loss in the way that you think of compositions and things like that. I wish I'd have seen it kind of without the glasses, because the glasses just darken everything. And so kind of I feel I'm a bit muddled in a way, kind of talking about the visuals of the film when I feel I haven't really seen them properly,
I do sort of know what you mean. On the other hand, it's like 3D is the major way that people will see it, so it's kind of useful to talk about it in that respect.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if it's the major thing. It's certainly, it's a thing. Is that, it's a major thing. It's a major, but not necessarily the dominant.
I don't know if it is or isn't. I don't have figures, but it's, I would think there's more than like 10% of people go and see it in 3D. I think it's, I'd imagine it's over half.
Oh, I wouldn't expect that much. But,
I don't know.
But anyway, I just hate.
It's an event thing, isn't it?
It's but I don't know.
I don't know either.
We
literally don't know.
Yeah, 3D has lost ground. For a reason. I mean, a few years ago, kind of there were televisions with 3D, and 3D, as it periodically does, seem to be the future. And then, as it periodically does, people realize, well, it's not. Actually, it's, there are some things that it's good at, but very few things, and for very few films. And I think this is one of the ones where it doesn't add anything except a loss in terms of visuals.
I think that's... I don't like that way of looking at it, because I think 3D does offer more than that, but it's so often just used very badly, and people don't really... And actually the people behind the films... like in a film like Star Wars, there's no way that it's not going to be made in 3D. So whatever you want to do as a director, you've got to do 3D as well. And I think that's the kind of the way people look at it. Like, I've got to do this as well, so I'll just plonk it on. Whereas when you use it more carefully and you really think about it, I think you can make some incredible stuff. And actually, I think that's one of the ways that The Last Jedi was better than this. I think The Last Jedi is visually miles ahead of this. This film, as I say, I think feels visually lazy. There's a lot of handy cam, shaky cam, snatch shots, that sort of thing. It doesn't feel careful to me or particularly interestingly composed, and I think it's a failure of the direction more than the 3D.
There are a lot of things that I've liked almost more than any other film. I think kind of, this is a film that's kind of responsive to the culture it's from. And, these liberation struggles, the allusions to the Black Lives Matter and and stuff like that is really interesting. It's the most ethnically mixed of casts. Unless I suppose you consider all these people from different planets and so on.
Well, I mean, you say that. Actually, one of the things that's interesting is when fans, this is quote unquote fans, no one hates Star Wars like a Star Wars fan. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And after The Last Jedi, where they were saying this isn't Star Wars, this is nothing like Star Wars, and so on, and clearly it was the best film they'd done in years. One of the things that they decided they would be offended by is that it was such a multicultural, multiracial, and also female-heavy film.
Well, I think the female thing was the most.
That was certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Laura Dern character, which I was saying to you, is it's like at Disney they went, how can we piss off all these 25-year-old and 30-year-old guys? Let's put their mum in the film as the boss, and give her purple hair. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's actually great for that reason, because she's such a good character. But basically, they kind of decided, we're going to boycott Solo. So, and it's which is they basically said, that time that you gave us a film full of people of colour and women, well, we're going to boycott the time that you give us a film with a straight white guy.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I mean, I did think that...
But of course, it's not a boycott anyway. Those guys are the first in line.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I'm sure
made $80 million over the weekend.
Yeah, which is not nothing.
Not nothing.
But it's not like Avengers big, is it?
No, and considering it cost $250 million because they basically had to make the film twice because they fired Phil Lord and Christopher Miller and then got Ron Howard in to pretty much, as far as I can tell, remake the whole thing again.
The film, yeah.
And from what I understand, he made it almost from scratch.
Right.
So they made the same film twice. So $80 million is being considered kind of a flop of a weekend at the moment, which is madness. Yeah. It's Ron Howard's biggest ever opening.
Right.
But not Star Wars's.
Well, it'll make its money back. And actually, I tell you, I am tempted to see it again.
I'm not. Sorry. I don't even think I'm being churlish. I really wanted to have a good time, and I love Donald Glover, and I really like Arlen Ehrenreich, and I thought this film has a lot going for it. I like Han Solo.
Yes.
And I like a bit of a caper, which is what this should have been.
Okay, so let's explore that further. When did the film begin to lose you?
That's interesting. I guess it kind of had me, at least until they got separated. I was into it then because I was into the world it was building.
Okay, well, that's the first 20 minutes.
That's the first 20 minutes or so. At least had me until then. But I would say, even in that car chase, I was going, I'm not feeling anything during this. And then you've got he joins up with them. When he's in the Empire, that was kind of interesting to him because I didn't, that's kind of like a side of the character, I guess, almost, that you never thought of.
Yes, I thought that was interesting. It made him like a vet. And actually, I thought that was great because it explains his skills and so on. He's somebody who's been trained, right? And who's been really well trained, and therefore has all these skills, right? Which helps explain the character.
Yeah, and it emphasises the mercenary side of his character as well. It's he will do anything to achieve an objective.
Yes.
Whether we think, and actually, you don't get any inkling of him thinking this is the bad thing, but I'll do it because I've got a greater objective in mind. He does it just because he does it. He needs, So So it's not like he's morally pretty cloudy, which is interesting.
But he's not morally so cloudy because the thing about him is that he's completely ruled by his love for her.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, that's not cloudy at all. That's the leading thing that motivates everything, which in a way makes him pure.
In a way,
he's ruled by love.
That's true. But nonetheless, he joins the Empire, and I've been conditioned by a lifetime of watching Star Wars to think that the Empire is pretty bad. So and Han is supposed to be a hero. So to put him in the Empire is an interesting move. And then it's when he joins the mercenaries, I guess, I started to tune out. I enjoyed seeing his relationship with Chewbacca, I suppose, but him and the mercenaries, I didn't feel like... I got why he had to be with them to learn various lessons and have his character grow in certain ways, but I just wasn't taken by any of it. I don't know about... Can't speak for you.
I don't know. I was very taken with Thandie Newton. I loved her character. Every time she was on screen, there was just magic happening, like, you
For
know.
10 minutes, and then she goes.
I know, but you know, we're kind of going through. We're ticking the boxes.
Okay,
here,
yeah.
right.
Fair enough.
You know, so I loved watching her, and I loved watching her interrelationship with Woody Harrelson. And every time Woody Harrelson's on screen, I'm interested, and he always does something interesting, actually, kind of, you know, with the line readings or with his stance, with his posture. You know, so I like that all very much. Where I think there were some things that were very amateurish. So I thought the Resistance revelation towards the end, right?
There's a scene of 1,000 revelations where it's just twist after twist after twist.
Yeah. And I thought, you know, that the young girl who played the role was just not very expert, you know, and she felt very awkward and so on. So there were a few moments like that, though it had its charm as well.
Oh, do you mean when she's on the phone to Darth Maul? And she's...
No. I'm talking about, you know, when those mercenaries... at the end.
Oh yes, the ginger girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she reveals that actually instead of being this kind of brutish lad, who you guess he will be,
she's a young girl.
She's a young girl from Scotland.
Yeah. So things like that, but I liked it very much. Actually, I think, you know, in terms of my own enjoyment, it is the one that I've enjoyed most since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
And actually, I do want to underline, because to me the thing about so many of the Star Wars films is A, they're dull, B, they're boring, C, there's nothing to look at. They feel thin, right? Like, you know, they really rely on the fan base to make all kinds of social relations that the film doesn't bother to make on its own.
That's true.
You know, so, and this one feels the most textured, yeah? Kind of, there are real actors and there's a real plot and, you know, kind of, and it's making good use of the world that's kind of already been created. So I think this has... yeah, it's got more texture. There's more going on, it seems to me.
Yeah, in a way, I suppose, maybe.
And I don't disagree with you that, you know, some of the things could have been better done or could have had more. I think the thing about pace is true, and it could certainly have had more snap, right? And I do think that some of the humorous bits could have been.
Oh, they died on their arse a
timed.
lot of the lines.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, it's subjective, of course, humour, but you know, I laughed at a few bits. I really enjoyed, for instance, when the feminist robot foments a revolution on this slave planet, and you've got the robots. She as well as slaves being broken out, she breaks the robots out as well. They're kind of slaves too, and they start trampling all over the desks. And there's a couple of really funny little shots in there. These little robots walking and stuff and breaking it. That's really nice. Yeah, so the humour has its moments, but a lot of it falls so dead.
Okay. To me, it's a film in which everyone's entrapped. You know, in which kind of, you know, there's no system, or there's no structures that anybody believes in. So the line of the film is just to stay in the game, to survive. That's the main goal of a lot of people. And, you know, kind of, there's love, but it's not enough. You know, and that kind of love is constantly sacrificed or perverted or bypassed or whatever, you know, in terms of like this game of survival. I think it's an interesting... thing at the moment, right? And obviously kind of, you know, the world is very decentered. There's all these like little pockets of resistance that kind of get continuously quashed. It's a world in which kind of, you know, betrayal is the expectation. I mean, it's a very bleak world.
Yeah, no, I actually appreciate that, and I think that's interesting, and that'd be worth kind of looking at it again through those eyes. I mean, I did think at one point, the idea of love not being enough. Like, I did think when you had that scene of, like I say, 1,000 revelations, and everyone knows something about someone else, and they're all backstabbing each other, and they all know that, I knew you would do that, so I did this, but I knew you would do that, so I did this.
Yes. I like that.
There's a lot of that, and it gets kind of... I wish it would get more campy, actually. Like, I wish it would seem a little bit more knowing about how silly that scene is.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, by the time you got to the end of that scene, I did sort of think, I can understand why Han Solo would become the guy he is by the time you meet him in 1977, because of the way he's sort of been treated by the people around him, and especially the girl.
Yes,
like I can sort of see like how that would take a toll on a guy, and the lesson that the lesson that the Woody Harrelson character is always trying to teach him, which is don't trust anybody, because every single person in the world is going to stab you in the back at some point.
Yes.
You know, obviously he takes to heart and he shoots Woody Harrelson at the end before Woody Harrelson can shoot him.
Yes.
So it's like he sort of had a kind of a transformation and a sort of loss and a descent in a way. but it doesn't feel like it. Like, even though you can sort of intellectualize it and you can say, well, this is sort of what it means, it doesn't feel like it.
I think part of the problem is that Ron Howard is the most earnest director in like the history of cinema, right? And I think, you know, there are moments where you wish somebody had been a bit cooler, you know, and just throw stuff away or be more casual. Yeah, like a kind of, you know, somebody with a more ironic, comedic vein would have drawn out, you know, kind of more juice out of the material. But I also think that there's a value in his earnestness, you know.
Yeah, I would say the only filmmaker more earnest for me is Christopher Nolan. You know, because at least Ron Howard doesn't have a character literally shout the word love to the camera.
Well,
but
though actually there's something about Nolan's filmmaking that's not earnest at all. You know, that it's exciting and deviant and you know, and experimental. It's not, you know.
But I think
wouldn't describe it as earnest.
Oh no, I'd say earnest insofar as like there's nothing ironic about Nolan. I don't think. I think he means everything he does.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't think there's a moment of cynicism in any of his films.
That's true, I suppose. Yes, that's interesting.
That's something I like about them.
I loved the racing film.
Rush.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always on my mind.
Yeah.
I want to watch that every day for the rest of my life. I really love that film. I really love that film. If I put it on, it stays on. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
love
it's really great.
Everything about it, the performances and the relationships. You know, Ron Howard can make really good films. Apollo 13 is a fantastic movie. He's made a bunch. But this, for me, I don't know what it is, and you don't know where to put the blame exactly. And like, obviously the films have production problems, which take whatever toll. You know, you have no idea. But this film just everything was incoherent's not the right word because it made sense, but it was just sort of flat. Flat. And
well, you know,
lifeless.
for me, it's the best Star Wars film in 30 years, and I'm not a fan. You know, so I agree that it has all of those problems, but even with those problems, you know, it's still, in my view, the best, you know, of all of those. So I think if you are a Star Wars fan, it's something that you'll if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's something that you'll enjoy. If you are a Star Wars fan, it's something that will give you a lot to enjoy and think about, or even just enjoy your frustration at it, like with you.
I suppose I enjoy being frustrated at it. It is so long. It is so long. I am surprised, I must say, that you find it visually interesting or appealing. I mean, well, you said yourself that you didn't like the gunmetal grey aspect of it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say that I found it interesting or appealing. I found that I couldn't evaluate its visuals because, you know, those glasses, which sat on me in a rather wonky way anyway, because I wear glasses.
You can have a try, though. We saw The Last Jedi in 3D as well, and you loved the way that looked.
Well, maybe it didn't affect, you know, kind of, it didn't affect me the way that this did.
There was more colour in that film.
Yeah, maybe that's it. You know, but I did think, like, you know, I was trying to look even just for compositions and so on, and I just kind of couldn't discern anything, really. So
I think it's the film's fault this time.
It could be.
Honestly, I do. I'm not even like just trying to be surly about it. I really do think it's.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I felt I wasn't in a position to really evaluate it. You know, so anyway, last words, because I think we're kind of
we're circling the drain, aren't we? I wouldn't waste your time, to be honest, until it's on telly.
Right. Speaking of telly, I can imagine myself, you know, seeing this on telly, and like you with Rush, sitting through it the whole way through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't think there's enough interesting character sort of interactions. Like, that's what gets me through a film, really. You know, like whenever you get in the Marvel films as well, for instance. You know, we saw Infinity War a few weeks ago, and it's action all over the place, and it's kind of madly orchestrated action over 3 different planets and whatever it is, and 100 different characters. But the most interesting thing is always when characters are talking to each other. Always.
I'm not.
And there's not.
I wonder if that has to do with where you see them. Because it is true that when you're seeing it on TV, all the other things just recede into nothingness, you know, because of the size of the screen, you know. So obviously the characters are the most important, and the conversation, and you know, and so on. But I'm not sure that's true if you see it in the cinema.
It's definitely my experience in the cinema. That's what I can tell you. Definitely, and it's true to say that better action will always be more interesting than worse action. I mean, that's kind of a tautology. Like, obviously, better is better than worse. But maybe it's a comment more on the state of how action is, shot and edited than it is about anything else. But I always think the most interesting thing is when a character's talking to someone else. I'm not interested in when Iron Man punches someone. I'm not interested in when Thor throws his hammer. I'm interested in when they're talking to each other, having an argument.
Yeah,
that's where the interest is.
Well,
always.
But those kinds of films, I mean, what else are they going to do?
Well, exactly.
So.
But they are actually also.
But this is different in the sense that when Han Solo gets hit, you get the feeling that he is vulnerable to being hit. It's not like Thor, where he's a god.
Well, there's an element of that as well, but I still always think that because it takes really, really good, well considered, well thought out action to actually propel a story. And it actually should always, but it normally doesn't. It normally fills a gap, is what action does. So it is a comment on the state of action more than anything. But the stuff that propels a story and changes a character and gives things life is always the conversation, I think.
I wish George Miller had directed this.
Well, yeah. It might have actually felt like fucking Mad Max, which is what I want. Which is what it promised.
Anyway, let's wrap it here. I recommend it.
I wouldn't.
And on that note, thank you for listening. We're on iTunes, on Facebook, on SoundCloud,
on Twitter,
and on Facebook under Eavesdrop.
If you Google Eavesdropping the movies, we show up, and on Twitter we're at Eavesdrop Movies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Voila.
Bye.